I came across a nice little pool here with lily pads, and I'd like to paint an impressionistic painting like Monet did. He did a lot of texture and unusual color in his piece, so I hope to do an impressionistic painting here on a larger board, 16 by 20, on location here in Burnaby. Let's see how it goes. So what do you start with in any painting? Basic structures and perhaps rhythms that I see. I see the circular rhythms of the lily pads, and I also see the vertical rhythms of the dried grasses. And then there's some interesting, really strong tones of orange and red. So I might start with that as a background. So I could start with an undertone of the richer tones I see in the lily pads, and that can be played out just as an underpainting. And to do that, I can actually just rub it in. I like to add bodies of paint and use what the pigments do, like this thicker overlay of gray, to cover. So knowing that, knowing the differences of properties of paint and how to bring things forward, warming them up a bit. I can warm this gray with a bit of orange. That's just a few little structures here in the foreground. And now I might place some of the darker water. The water's actually darker than the rocks, so that's going to be interesting. And the lily pads are lighter, and they play that out like this. So, question is, do I draw them out first? The little greens here. And so I'm playing on a little bit of line play just for fun, to remind myself there's these bright little greens in the background. Those grasses will come out later. Okay, so this deep tone in the water, that's going to be a tough one. So I'm going to get some Viridian green, and it's quite warm, very warm and mucky. So I have this color playing out here. What is the notan? Dark areas. So I'm going to paint in the notan right now with my own feeling of the weight of the darks. And place it there like that. I would like to bring your focus in here. This is quite strong too, so it canvas starts to speak to you as you build on it if you're working in this Alla Prima impressionistic way. There's this rhythm I was seeing in the water there, if it's playing out. Just grab my eye there, and then I'm going to have to put a dark over there. It's a reflection. I'm just sensing where there'd be reflections of these kind of coming through. Get another. No, that's better. Sometimes what's nice about the oil paints is that they'll pick up that other color just as you need it. And I also want the whites, it's almost too even here. So I'm going to get this spacing here. These guys, get some other colors in there. So now it's sort of separating these verticals. These are still too even, so let's get a different color in here. Like a purple. This purple's good, I like that. Get that in here, going through. So you have darks against lights, and lights against darks. Let's get this one to be playing that. Impressionism is like pointillism in some ways with color, but with strokes, with brush strokes. And each artist has their own way of applying the paint, and that's what makes each piece so unique. So I'm just happy if I can have a good feeling about how the cool and warm colors are playing out and making a little visual song. So there's sort of music I feel that I sense in the landscape. It gives me a pleasure as if listening to music by visually studying it and exaggerating color and trying to mix different hues and values. Analyzing all the different elements of the painting, how the values are playing out. I squint. There's this little bit of expressive play on that, as well as the color. So I like that. It's an energized feeling. So as the reflections came off the water, they seemed to sparkle, and so that's the effect I wanted with this dry brush across. There's this little interference here, so I'll just try to put a little detail on that, just little high parts of the lily pad, I guess. So details, not necessary, but sometimes to bring your eye through and around. Well, as I looked at this from a distance, I noticed it needed a little more dark around the focal point of this flower here, so I came back and got some darker paint and just put a few more little notes right around there, maybe through here, and carried some dark back down here in order to just put some larger brush strokes sweeping across, because there's a lot of verticals. But I'm still happy that it has some transparency of the canvas, as well as some opaque and very textured areas that sort of play on also the warm and cool colors. And so this impressionistic abstract here of the pond, I feel, is been a fun thing to try out here on location. And plein air painting does not always have to be rendering what you see, but you do learn a lot about what shapes are and what color you can try to identify, and then do with it what you want as an artist, and you're free to explore abstraction in this way as well. That's what I like about plein air painting, is it's a nice day outside and a way to be creative. So I hope that you also will at some point try painting outside and make it your own. Here by Lynn Valley, where I know that some of the group of 7 came to paint, and Varley was one of them that painted from this location and visited often. And so for me, I appreciate not only what I took from his